بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني من نور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. We continue our study for the Hadith. We were talking about fear and hope, خوف and raja. The title of this chapter is the distinction between hope and deception, raja and ghurur. Ghurur sometimes is pride, but many times it means deception. لا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. Gharur is shaitan because he deceives a lot. Allah said, do not let Satan, who is deceiving a lot, to deceive you. So the question is, what is the difference between raja, which is a positive condition, and ghurur, which is deception and it's negative? How can we realize when I have hope, expectations about Allah's love, mercy, forgiveness? How can I realize this is positive attitude or negative? He says sometimes, unfortunately, people, maybe we are included, think we have hope, but indeed we don't have hope. We have ghurur. You can have different ways to distinguish between the two. One is to look at mabadi, the origins, to see what's the origin of your condition. Then you can realize it is hope or it is deception. Is it caused? Does it originate from your conviction that Allah's mercy is great and all-embracing? Allah's essence is great. So is it greatness of Allah and His mercy that has caused this condition in you? Then if it is the case, it is hope. Or it is your lack of appreciation of the rights of Allah over you, the need for obedience, underestimation of obedience that has caused this kind of condition in you, that you are very relaxed, you have no fear that much. So if this is the case, then it is not hope, it is ghurur, it's deception. If it is difficult for you to realize what's the origin, then there is another way, and that is by considering the outcomes. So when you have two conditions, each of them has its own origin and each of them has its own outcomes. Something positive like hope and something negative like ghurur cannot originate from the same thing, of course, and cannot lead to the same outcomes. Like health and illness, they have different origins and they have different outcomes. So we talked about origins. What about the outcomes? If you have hope, it means that you have appreciation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness, His rights over you, the city of obedience, your awareness of His love, His favor, His mercy, makes you more and more motivated to obey Him, because it is fitri, it is very natural for us that if we realize there is greatness somewhere, we try to respect, we try to appreciate, we try to acknowledge, we try to recognize that greatness by appreciation and by humbling ourselves. So, if you understand Allah's greatness and great favor and other qualities, then you just feel that you are not doing enough. Even if you have ibadah of prophets and awliyaullah, still you say, my hands are empty, my provision is very little, I have not done enough, or even you may say, I have not done anything, because you are fully aware of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if it is deception, the outcome is that you don't do anything, or very, very little. You just relax, you just waste your time and say, I have hope. This is not hope. He mentions a hadith in Kafi from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. The narrator says to Imam, قُلْتُ لَهُ, I told Imam, قَوْمٌ يَعْمَلُونَ بِالْمَعَاصِي وَيَقُولُونَ نَرْجُو. There are people that they bring sins, they commit sins, but they say we hope. فَلَا يَزَالُونَ كَذَلِكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَهُمُ الْمَوْتِ. And they are constantly like that till their death comes. فَقَالَ هَؤُلَاءِ, Imam alayhi salam replied, هَؤُلَاءِ قَوْمٌ يَتَرَجَّحُونَ فِي الْأَمَانِ. These are the people that they have inclined towards unrealistic desires. This is not hope, this is omnia, something which you wish but has no basis. كذبوا ليسوا براجين. They are wrong. They told lie, means they are not right in saying they hope. ليسوا براجين, they don't have hope. إن من رجا شيئا طلبه. The one who has hope for something would look for it, would seek. وَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ شَيْءٍ هَرَبَ مِنْ. In the same way, if someone has fear of something, would run away from it. Hope takes you towards something, and fear takes you away from something. But if you are not taken towards something, if you are not acting for something, then you cannot say, I have hope. There is another hadith, again in Al-Kafi, Al-Husayn ibn Abi Sara قال سمعت أبا عبد الله عليه السلام. He said, I heard Imam Sadiq عليه السلام saying, لا يكون المؤمن مؤمنا حتى يكون خائفا راجيا. Mu'min is not a mu'min, means mu'min is not a true mu'min, unless he or she is khaif and raji, means has fear and hope. Fearful and hopeful. Okay. But there is a continuity which explains what is to be fearful and what is to be hopeful. وَلَا يَكُونُ خَائِفًا رَاجِيًا حَتَّى يَكُونَ عَامِلًا لِمَا يَخَافُ وَيَرْجُو. And he is not fearful and hopeful unless he acts for what he has hope and with consideration of what he has fear. Means he tries to get what he hopes, he moves towards what he hopes, and he tries to protect himself from what he has fear from. The example that he gives, Imam Khomeini gives, is like a farmer. You cannot say, I am a hopeful farmer, then you don't prepare the land, you don't put any seeds, don't sow any seeds, you don't remove unwanted plants, just leave everything to the just nature. You don't do anything and then say, I am a hopeful farmer. Or a student who doesn't take any note, doesn't read the book, doesn't prepare himself, and says, I have hope that I would pass the exam and get very good result. This is not hope. This is lack of understanding. So he says, Pas bande, the servant of God, if زمین دل را از خارهای اخلاق فاسده و سنگ و شوره‌های معاصی پاک نمود. Imagine your heart is like a land and you are a gardener, a farmer. What do? You remove bad habits and bad akhlaq, bad traits of character. Because these are like a stone, salt, thorns, and other unwanted plants being in your land. You have to first clean your land from these things. Then و بذر اعمال را در او کشت. Then you have to sow the seeds of actions. So you have to do righteous deeds. و به آب صافی علم نافع و ایمان خالص آن را آبیاری کرد. So after you have prepared the land by removing bad things and by putting seeds, then you have to water it with beneficial knowledge and pure iman. Knowledge and iman is like water. Then maybe some things grow inside your farm. These are like obstacles. These are like ujb, riya, self-admiration, showing off, these type of things. You have to also be careful about this. First, not let them come, and if they have come, to remove them quickly. و از مفسدات و موانع مثل عجب و ریا و امثال آنها که به منزله علف‌هایی است که مانع از سبز شدن زراعت است. These are like some grass that grow inside your wheat. You have to remove them. Then, after doing all these things, you wait for the mercy of Allah to come. For example, the rains, good sunshine, not being attacked by birds or insects, so that inshallah you have very good harvest. This is the positive hope. And this is why Quran says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا وَجَاهَدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أُولَئِكَ يَرْجُونَ رَحْمَةَ اللَّهِ. Surah Baqarah, verse 218. Truly, those who have faith and have migrated and struggled for the sake of God, these are those who hope, these hope mercy of God. These are people who hope mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to have iman, you have to do something, you have to struggle so that you can be considered as someone who has hope. The next chapter is about lemiyat. In philosophy, when we have an argument which goes from the cause to the effect, we call it burhan al-lem. When it goes from effect to the cause, we say burhan n. For example, if from seeing a smoke, you realize there is fire behind the wall. You see the smoke coming, you don't see the fire because behind the wall, but you realize there is fire because you have seen the effect, ma'lul. So, if from seeing the smoke, you realize there is fire, this is burhan n with hamza. But if from seeing fire, you realize there is heat, then this is burhan lem, from cause to the effect. Now, here we want to have a discussion about why. What's the reason that there must be balance between hope and fear? And as we had in the Hadith, none of them should prevail. There should be balance. The reason is that you must be able to strike a balance between not being relying on your action and qualities and having hope in Allah's mercy. If you have too much hope, no fear, then you become careless. If you have too much fear, no hope, you become despaired. So you have to have a balance. He quotes another hadith which highlights why we should have fear. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, according to hadith in Kafi, says, Al-mu'minu bayna makhafatain. A mu'min is always between two fears. ذنب قد مضى لا يدري ما صنع الله فيه. A sin, of course, can be not just one, but can be many sins. But as a kind of general statement, a sin or sins in the past that mu'min doesn't know what Allah has done with that sin. Has He forgiven or not? So you are always worried. Are my sins in the past forgiven or not? This is one fear. But you have a fear also for future. وَعُمْرٍ قَدْ بَقِيَ. The life which is remaining, not the past. لا يدري ما يكتسب فيه من المهالك. Mu'min doesn't know what he's going to get, to acquire from destructive things. What bad things I'm going to do. فهو لا يصبح إلا خائفا. So he is not except fearful. ولا يصلحه إلا الخوف. So, mu'min has two fears from the past, or about the past, about the future, and nothing can reform him, can make his condition okay, except fear. So, this shows that fear is very much needed. Then he says, Some people have said there can be circumstances in which fear should be more, or fear is more beneficial. And there can be circumstances where hope has to be more or is more beneficial. For example, they have said if you are healthy, it's good to be fearful about illness more so that you work harder. But if you are near death, it's better that your hope is more than your fear, so that you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with more loving condition. But Imam Khomeini says no, fear and hope should be always balanced and always the same level. Then he says some people have said fear is only something in dunya. It's not really a virtue of the soul. It's not really an intellectual perfection so that it would remain with us in the akhirah as well. It is only for dunya. It is only in this world of action that fear is positive, so that we don't do bad things. But they have said in akhirah, we only should have hope, not fear. Then he quotes from Allama Majlisi in Biharul Anwar that he says that as long as we are in dunya, we have to have fear and hope, and then after seeing the affairs of the hereafter, for some people fear becomes more, for some people hope becomes more. But Imam Khomeini himself doesn't accept any of these three sayings. He says that they should always be balanced and proportionate. What they have said about fear not being there in the hereafter, for example, for some people, because they see, for example, reward, whatever, they see positive things. He says this is one type of fear which is not there. Otherwise, the fear and the hope which are caused by understanding greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and manifestation of His favor and His beauty in your heart, this type of fear and hope would not stop in the hereafter, and they will remain equally there. And a mu'min, a wali of awliyaullah in the hereafter has very strong khashya, fear in the sense of khashya. It's not about other types of fears that people have, that about punishment or whatever. No, this is out of understanding Allah's greatness, and this by itself gives pleasure. You know, when you are in front of a great personality and you see your weakness and your smallness, but you are very careful that you are in such a great moment, but very happy. You don't say, let me go away and don't be with this person. You want to be more with that person. This gives you more pleasure. And he says, this type of fear does not contradict the ayah, Inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. The friends of Allah, they have no fear or grief. That khawf is negative fear. This is positive, and he says it's a matter of perfection, and those who are more perfect would have it more. So alhamdulillah, we finished Hadith 14. Inshallah, next week we start Hadith 15, which is about tests and trials. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
اللهم